Some of the content of Patriots Unfiltered may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
The world's original podcast.
Welcome to Patriots Unfiltered.
There just was a lot of division, I think, within the ranks on those two staffs, and I think that can really undermine what you're doing as a head coach.
Yeah. When Barth's cheating on you with David Andrews now on his new podcast, you should ask him about that.
That's a fair point.
Yeah. I can just see Evan. He's watching the Super Bowl and he's got his jersey mics and he's like half bites, like they're running a 6-1 with a tilt.
We all decided at some point that red meat was the devil. So like,
I don't know who you people are.
Eating a lot of red meat is not.
I'll eat anything that bleeds or bled at one time.
That's not is not the best for you.
Can I go to my dark negative side?
Sure, of course. That's why you're here.
Which people like to make fun of. I mean, they got nothing.
They got $300 million.
This makes the package they got for Mookie Betts look like they got Jason Varitek and Derek Lowe for Heathcliff Slocum.
When is the trade deadline, by the way?
End of July.
I just don't know why trading for a
month and a half. It's a month and a half from
now. You don't know how calendars work.
Yeah,
it's less than a month away.
So he said end of July.
Usually
it's the middle of July, but it's also it's the end of June now. The 17th.
That's the middle of June.
So it's less than a month away.
I said a month and a half because he said it was the end of July. Do you know math?
This is Patriots Unfiltered.
Presented by Toyota's official website for deals, buyatoyota.com.
I'm just going to apologize in advance, everyone. No Fred Kirsch today. The wheels are going to be off early and often. It's just yours truly, an Easy E, Evan Lazar. It's going to be a bare bones show today on Patriots Unfiltered, but we'll get through. We'll get by. We got some stuff to talk about. Of course, a major transaction for the Patriots right off the top. So I don't really think we need to have any pleasantries, Evan. Let's get right into the Yasier Durant.
We're not pleasantry kind of guys.
Hey, let's get into Yasier.
The news of the day.
Yasier Durant.
This year, I think.
Big move. Big move.
The news of the day in Boston sports today. Yasier Durant. Well, I'm not going to make a huge deal about Yasier Durant, who was with the DC Defenders of the UFL most recently.
Championship pedigree.
Championship pedigree is right. There's no Patriot that's won a Super Bowl with the Patriots on the roster, so now we have a UFL champion, Yasier Durant. But he had a really good season there. All UFL team for whatever it's worth. All pro in that league, and there was definitely some murmurs about him on short lists of guys from that league that might get NFL contracts coming off the spring leagues and things like that. So, but bigger picture, I think it's more just a conversation about that ongoing left guard competition. And Wes Schweitzer retires. They sign Yasier Durant. Kind of fills in for that Wes Schweitzer role of that veteran that's been around a little bit. So that would be the way I would read it. Would just be kind of just another Wes Schweitzer replacement type of player, veteran guy. Throw him into the mix.
Throw him into the mix.
Yeah.
He was here. 21?
21.
He had one start, I think.
Training camp at 22.
Okay, so you throw him into the mix. He's a guy with at least some familiarity with the organization. You see if he can carve out a role. I do feel like the tackle spots. We talked about this a little bit last week. I think the tackle spots are a little bit bare beyond Morgan Moses and Will Campbell.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of competition with Caden Wallace. There's been some talk of Wallace maybe sliding inside to provide depth in the interior spots as well. So if Durant is one of these guys that can carve out a role as a swing tackle or provide you some depth on the inside, who knows? So that's the big Patriots news, and that's really about all we got for Patriots news.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. It's the biggest news story probably of the day here in Foxborough is the intense heat that we're dealing with. It's knocking on the door of triple digits, which is not something that happens every day in New England.
No, it's toasty
we're in the
right now,
mid-90s, and I for one am really happy for it because I like the heat, and it's been a miserable spring. And now that we're into summer, at least we're getting some summer-like weather. I know that you millennials are probably melting over there. So
you're a summer guy.
I love the summer.
Because I love the
summer.
Now the hot take that's out there is to be that summer is overrated. But you think summer is
There's
properly
nothing overrated about summer.
It gets a little hot.
So what?
It's a little hot.
It's a little hot.
It's a little hot on a
First
day.
of all, there are very few days like today.
That's fair.
In this era. I want to say I saw something, this would be a perfect Fredism. I want to say I was watching the news, I think, yesterday, and something like in the 20s of the amount of days that are over 100. Like on record.
In
29.
Massachusetts,
Yeah,
or-
like around here, obviously,
Yeah,
not
yeah.
in the,
Yeah.
we're not talking Phoenix,
Right.
where it's like 115 on a regular basis. But yeah, it's warm here. Not a lot going on in and around the stadium. I've been struck the last couple of days that I've been walking through the parking lot, looking over at the players area. Not a lot of activity over there, which is what it should be. At this time of year, it's that sort of key 5 or 6 week period between the end of minicamp and the start of training camp where the coach loses his mind because
I'm
he's
sure.
constantly worried about what his players are doing.
I'm sure. I mean, you're hands off at this point in terms of training and all that kind of stuff. And I hate to go back to this but we've talked about in the past this schedule maybe changing in terms of the NFL offseason and how they structure the NFL offseason, because it makes no sense to me that they have the spring program, they have OTAs, they have minicamp, and then everybody goes on a 5-week break, and then we come back again at the end of July. Like, why the break in between? I still can't really wrap my head around why that is. Obviously, just talking about it from a football standpoint, you got to stay in shape. You got to get ready for the season. That's a lot of things that Vrabel talked about towards the end of the spring. But unfortunately, just league-wide, a lot of guys get in trouble this time of year too, right? So
Yeah.
it's just all around. This break is sticky. Like, it just, whether you're staying in shape, whether you're doing the right things in terms of off the field, like that's where we're at right now, and it's tough. Every year we hear bad news this time of year. It feels like league-wide, of course, and so you just got to stay out of that, stay out of the headlines. But I would understand totally if they decided to push this around a little bit in terms of the off season and go to more of like a continuous OTA mini camp, training camp type of schedule, because you're right. Like all 32 coaches are sweating it right now about their team.
So I'll give you real quick. I'll give you a story that the late great Will McDonough once told Fred and I and Brian Morey when I first started here. Will's talking to us about some of his early interactions with Bill Belichick, and this was before. I think Bill may have been the coach at Cleveland at the time, and they were golfing. Will and Bill were out, I think golfing on Nantucket, and Bill's standing over his ball, getting ready to take his drive, and he's addressing the ball, and all of a sudden he just backs away and he starts mumbling some swears, and Will's like, "What's the matter, Bill?" And he's like, "You just never know what they're doing. You never know what they're doing. Like, these a-holes are getting in trouble right now, and you have no control over it." And Bill hated that feeling of not having the control. So I can understand what you're talking about. It's something that coaches, they think about it all the time. So, I mean, it just was one of those little anecdotes that always stuck out to me, and it was something that McDonough told us, God, 25 years ago, maybe longer at this point.
It's too bad that towards the, because you hear a lot of stories like that of Bill with people in the media once upon a time, hanging out, golfing, or your guy Felger is always
Felger's been on the boat.
Yeah, he's been talked about that in the past, and having these, and then post Spygate, that just completely changed, and Bill became completely closed off to anybody on the outside. But it would have been cool to golf with Bill.
Absolutely,
that would have been amazing.
So you can tell that it's going to be one of those shows today where pretty much anything goes.
Yeah.
So if you have anything on your mind at all, there are no topics that are going to be dismissed today. I'm not going to make that promise, because you know how I can get sometimes when I'm not in the mood. But in all seriousness, let us know. We can go in a number of different directions today. Obviously, there's not a huge amount of breaking Patriots news. I believe we're down to one draft pick remaining unsigned, Travion Henderson, right?
Yeah, we can talk a little bit about that. I mean,
Craig Woodson did sign.
Yep.
So I think we're down to one pick. Well, so if that's something that's giving you some concern, let us know. Patriots Unfiltered hotline, obviously 855-PATS-500. or you can send us an email at podcasts@patriots.com. So those are the two best ways to get in touch and take part in our conversation today. But again, not to go all Felger and Maz on you, but Freeform Friday, a Tuesday, special Tuesday with 100 degrees out edition. Anything you guys want to talk about? Just looking ahead, Evan, I wanted to get your take, and I printed out the lengthy list. The ESPN and PFF, I believe, have combined to put together a quarter-century NFL team. So position by position, mostly pretty straightforward picks, but I think that we can probably have some conversation, at least, about some of the omissions. I had one Patriot omission that kind of rubbed me the wrong way that I'll get to later. So we'll spend some time going over that. But in the meantime, like I said, let us know what you guys want to talk about. Get on the phone. Patriots Unfiltered hotline again, 855-PATS-500, or shoot us an email. We have a couple of emails already coming in. I see one. We were talking about the tackle situation and the worries about the coaches leaving, the players leaving and the coaches worrying about it. Will Campbell looks like he's going to be sticking around during this period,
Yeah.
So I'll get to that email later. But he was
I believe all
out
the
doing some
rookies.
charity stuff. Past week. I think he was at Great Wolf Lodge.
Yeah, some water park or
Yeah.
something like that. I think one Alex Francisco might have something up about some of the stuff that's been going on.
Absolutely. So get those emails in, and this is a good time when you're outside, right? Because Evan melted, by the way. He said this summer's overrated. He can't be outside. We know that Evan doesn't do any yard work anyway.
I didn't say summer was overrated.
Summer's
I said that's
overrated.
the take right
It's
now.
too hot. He doesn't do
It is
yard
too
work in
hot.
the first place. So
true.
for those of you that aren't afraid to go outside and get maybe a little bit sweaty, a little uncomfortable, and get some work in, Fred told me last week that you need work boots to do yard work, which I had never really thought of. And then I did some power washing over the weekend, and I wish I had my work boots on.
In 100 degrees.
Yeah, and I had my new work boots from Brunt because why? Because they gave them to us, which was great, and
Good
we
transition.
appreciated that. Based right here in New England, Brunt Workwear makes work boots and apparel that are built for the job site. Their gear is comfortable, durable, and named after the real workers in the trades that helped design it. You can even try Brunt out on the job, and if it doesn't blow you away, they let you send it back. Save $10 on your first order at bruntworkerwear.com/PATS or with coupon code PATS. So I can tell you that I'm a big fan of this stuff. I was not overly familiar with it. I don't know how much familiarity you had with it before
I wasn't either, no.
they became a great sponsor for us. But the people at Brunt were kind enough to send us some apparel, and
It was great.
and I love it.
Yeah,
and
I'm picky.
I wish I had those work boots on when I was power washing because my feet got soaking wet. And I don't think that would have happened if I had the work boots on, which were right in the house. I could have just put them on.
I'm a picky guy when it comes to clothes, which I don't think is probably surprising. But
You're a picky guy when it comes to everything.
Right. So I'm very picky when it comes to my clothes, and so it honestly frustrates me because a lot of the time, if somebody gives me something for free, which is not very often, but if it does happen, a lot of the time I don't like it. Like it just doesn't fit right or whatever. The quarter zip that they gave us was fantastic. I could definitely see myself wearing it. I was very excited that it was very comfortable.
Yeah, I mean it's. I'll be looking forward to the first snow. Well, no, I won't. Let me just take that.
You're
right
a summer
back.
guy. You
I'm
just
not
said
looking
that.
forward to the first snowstorm, but I had some issues last year with my old
with
boots.
your footwear.
My old boots. I lost a whole sole of one of the boots. Actually had it duct taped on as I was doing the snowblower the last time. So I'm very much happy, very much appreciative of the fact that I have a new pair of work boots that I will be doing that work with this time around. But I was talking about Will Campbell a little bit.
Yep.
And Jess in Brooklyn is the one who sent the email in. I believe I heard on PU or elsewhere that Will Campbell was planning to stick around Foxborough leading up to camp, and I'm wondering what that means and what are the rules in terms of contact between players who stay in town and Patriots staff. Is Campbell allowed to work out at the stadium under the guidance of the Patriots strength and conditioning coaches, or does he have to use another facility and private trainers? Is he allowed to go into the team's film archives and watch tape, or is that prohibited? Obviously, many young players want to take steps to get a leg up, but the Players Association doesn't want them feeling pressured to skip their time off to grind at the facility. So in the time between minicamp and training camp, Evan, are the facilities and some staff available to players, or are the doors locked?
No, yeah, they can work out here for sure, and a lot of players often do. And with the rookies are actually still in a developmental camp type of phase right now with the team. So I'm pretty sure all the rookies are still here, not just Will Campbell, and they will continue to do work now. They won't. There's restrictions in terms of coaching, like they can't be on the field with Mike Vrabel right now, I don't believe. But it's similar to like the very beginning of the OTA circuit.
That's there's no on-field work.
Right.
You had it absolutely right.
Yeah.
They can be here, and it's time. If they're not pressured to be here. I think this is probably an individual case-by-case basis. But there's no matter what, there's no on-field work with the coaches. If they want to be out there working out on their own, if Will Campbell's like banging a sled around or something like that, that's his prerogative, I would imagine. But no actual practice time on the field.
No.
For any of the players.
No. But film room, weight room, all that stuff is open and in fair game. You often see veteran players that are rehabbing injuries will either be here all the time or check in or whatever the case may be as well. So there's rules about that too, that if you're coming off an injury and you need treatment and that sort of thing, then obviously you're permitted to come to the facility as well. So no, it's not like they put a big deadbolt on the door and say, nobody allowed in.
So we're winding our way toward July. So, once July starts, that means training camp starts this month.
Yeah.
And we're just, now what, 4.5, 5 weeks away, from the start of training camp. Give me I'm going to ask you two different questions. I want to ask you what you feel the best about right now, position-wise, position group, best about the team, and obviously the flip side of that. What do you feel the worst about?
I would say best right now, it's probably close between the cornerback room and the defensive line. I think both those units, at least in terms of the starters, the frontline guys on both those units, I think is going to be really good for this team. The duo of Gonzalez and Carlton Davis is as good as they've had probably since maybe Stephon Gilmore and whoever was opposite of him had, at different times, maybe going all the way back to like Revis and Browner, right? Like that kind of group, like that good. So I'm very optimistic about that. And you just talk about all the schematic things that you can do when you have two lockdown corners and how that frees guys up in the box to blitz and do different things and things like that is intriguing. The worst about, or just the most concerned, the offensive line I still think is a big question mark with this team. It's better on paper than it was last year, and they've rebuilt it. They have two new tackles, they have a new starting center. They're going to have someone at left guard that maybe wasn't here or didn't start last year. So it's not the only guy that's coming back that is guaranteed a starting spot is Onwenu. So it's not like they haven't done work there.
Yep.
It's just unknown right now. How good is Will Campbell going to be? Is Morgan Moses going to continue to age like fine wine, or is that going to finally catch up to him? Garrett Bradbury had some concerns and some questions. Minnesota cut him, moves on from him. So I still think it's better, but it's not where it needs to be yet.
Yeah, I mean, I would totally agree with your concern. I think it's got to be the offensive line. I think if I agree with you on paper, they've improved it, but it's still a work in progress. So that would be my number one concern. I like the two that you chose for the things you feel the best about. I'm going to go in a slightly different direction, and it's kind of a leap of faith a little bit, but I really like the idea, because we didn't see it actually play out, but I like the idea of where Drake Maye looks to be right now.
Yeah.
I think that there was a comfort level that I didn't necessarily see really at any time last year. Now, that makes a lot of sense. He was a rookie last year. He was behind an established veteran in Jacoby Brissett, who was going to be the starter. It's all different this time around. He still has a veteran backup, but he's the clear-cut starter. And I think that he looks like that. Again, it's not based on anything I saw from him physically. I didn't see the offense look particularly good, really, at all. There was one day, I want to say the first day of minicamp, that I actually wasn't there, that by all accounts you guys said the offense looked terrific. There was one of the OTAs, which I was at all the OTAs, where he made a handful of really, really exceptional throws. But I wouldn't say necessarily the offense was great on that particular day. He just was exceptional 3 or 4 times. The one in particular that he sort of slid around the pocket, moved up, climbed the pocket, and just threw an absolute dime, I think, to Booty, was the one that really stood out to me. I just feel like Drake Maye and Josh McDaniels look to be on the same page. And that, to me, has me the most optimistic about what I've seen so far.
And it's encouraging, too, from just a little bit that we've seen. A lot of it is going to be recognizable in terms of scheme of what they're doing with Josh McDaniels, but I have seen some different things that in the spring that are clearly catered to the fact that he has a quarterback with a different skill set now in Drake Maye. You see a lot more moving pockets, for instance. Like, you're not running bootlegs with Mac Jones and Tom Brady. Like,
right.
That's just not going to be a big part of your offense. But it might be a bigger part of the offense with Drake Maye. So you see some of the adaptations or just the shifts that they're doing schematically to fit with Drake Maye, and I think that was a question when they hired McDaniels was he going to be stubborn, and was he going to put Drake Maye in the Brady system and make him into Tom Brady and force him into that kind of scheme that doesn't amplify his athleticism and his traits and all that kind of stuff. And so far, I think it would probably be 85% of it, but there's going to be a Drake Maye seasoning to this that is going to exist. And I think that's encouraging. Some of the things that they were doing in the red zone work, especially towards the end of the spring, were really encouraging. Yep. Some of the shotgun stuff and maybe some quarterback run and things like that. I mean, that's what you got to do. Like, that's the type of player you have now back there. So overall, I don't know how you can't be optimistic about the climb. Like, it started out a little bit rocky, and then in every practice it just kind of felt like Drake Maye looked a little bit more comfortable with every checkpoint that we had along the spring. And so hopefully you get into it in the summertime and that just continues. I mean, it's not going to be every day, it's not going to be great, but hopefully it's a steady climb.
Yeah, and I was listening to one of our colleagues, Andrew Callahan, this morning, locally here in Boston on the Sports Hub, and one of the things that he said that I really agree with in regards to Josh is I think I have more confidence in him being able to alleviate our biggest fear of the offensive line, because he's not going to allow that to sort of derail the whole offense. He's going to work around and scheme around it, quick throws, timing throws. Now, it's going to be incumbent upon Drake Maye and the receivers to make sure that they're able to operate like that, because I do not have any illusions that it's going to look like it did with Tom Brady.
Right.
Because I think Tom Brady was exceptional at covering up for, suspect offensive line play at times. I don't know if Drake Maye will be able to do that, but I do know that Josh McDaniels will read and recognize where those issues are and work around them better, I think, than they did last year with Alex Van Pelt, who wanted to sort of be a little bit more deliberate and take some shots, some slower developing play action. That's how they wanted to hit big plays last year. They just didn't have the protection to do it.
Yeah, they have, there's a lot of different things that you can do to help out an offensive line, but I think the most important thing, you can really cover up one weak spot on the offensive line. Like, if you know that, let's just say left guard, because that's sort of the position right now we're all talking about. If you know that left guard is going to be a little bit of a target for defenses and a little bit of a weak spot for you, like, there's obviously a million things that you can do to help out the left guard, putting him in the slide side so the center is helping him on every single player, that whatever the case may be. So you can do those types of things, and I just think McDaniels has shown a really good grasp of that, of understanding protections and understanding where threats are and where their weak spots are and how to cover those things up. It's one of his better traits that goes unnoticed because it's kind of in the weeds, but it's something that I think he's really good at. And Doug Marrone being here as well is not lost on me. That's a guy that's been coaching offensive line for 20, 25 years. Is an experienced coach. It's not a first-time offensive line coach like Scott Peters was last year, running the room for the very first time. So last year you had a first-time full-time play caller in Alex Van Pelt and a first-time head offensive line coach in Scott Peters. This is the opposite of that. This is as much experience as you could have in those two roles as probably any team in the league. So that's encouraging if they do have to work around it. And I go back to that 21 season with McDaniels. It wasn't like they had prime Randy Moss and Gronk at the skill positions, and they were still a above average offense for most of the season.
They worked around the limitations that they had.
Yeah.
And there were limitations. Remember the rookie quarterback, obviously, and a rookie quarterback who didn't have the athleticism that Drake Maye has, and certainly didn't have the arm strength that Drake Maye has. So I'm excited. That's why that's one of the things that I think I'm most optimistic about. So we gave you a couple of things on both sides of the ledger. So I'm curious to what you guys think. Give us a call. Again, 855-PATS-500. The emails are coming in a little bit. Jack in Ann Arbor is he's sad. He's sad that there's no Fred, but don't worry about it, Evan. He's still with us. I'm still going to watch the show. Carry on. So we do appreciate
carry on or carry on.
That's a good point.
Yeah, you don't know.
He might need to be a little bit more.
Is it a carry on?
A little bit more,
or are you
more clear.
Carrying on with the show.
Yeah, I love the emails coming in. I mean, I'm going to have to have a. I'm going to pull a Fred here, and I'm going to have a chance to read them before I get into all of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's nice. It's nice the interaction on a steamy Tuesday afternoon.
Do you love it though? You love that it's 100 degrees out. You're not.
Yeah, 100 might be a little bit strong, but I did. Last week we had the holiday on Thursday, and it was pretty hot that day. It was in the 90s, and we golfed. I played a quick 18. It was beautiful. I was not complaining about. It was the first time I golfed all year where my nose wasn't running.
There you go.
So I took
That's
that as a plus. Now, what else wasn't running was the birdie train was not running either. I missed it. So that was tough.
Our building has a pool, and they finally opened the pool for the season because your lovely city of Everett, Paul, has been dragging their feet on the permit for the pool, approving the usage of the pool because, red tape in your hometown there. Is
Played a lot of hockey in that pool.
Oh, it's just crazy.
In the fall.
So they finally opened the pool, and when you open a pool at a big apartment complex like this, it's just, the amount of people at the pool last weekend was just insane. I mean, you couldn't get a spot by the pool at all. But last Thursday, we were off because of Juneteenth, which a lot of people asking why we didn't have a show last week, and that was why.
It was a national holiday.
It was a federal holiday, but it was great. We sat by the pool for a little bit. It was very nice. I sucked it up for Jess for like a couple hours in the heat, and it was cool.
You got time for a game?
Yeah, let's do it.
We got a Would You Rather.
Yeah.
From Kyle in Pembroke. Let's see. Would you rather go tubing on a lake or to a water park?
I'm a lake guy. I grew up on lakes, so tubing on a lake.
I think I would go with the lake too.
Yeah.
I can do whatever I want, whereas the water park, you're stuck in lines. I like water parks.
I do. I like water parks better than amusement parks.
I like both of those.
Yeah.
But I would think I would go with the lake
Little
with you.
Winnipesaukee action.
Would you rather have burgers and hot dogs or sausages and a pulled pork sandwich at a cookout?
Burgers and hot dogs.
Me too.
I feel like sausage and a pulled pork it's a lot for a cookout. Like if you're at a barbecue spot, then obviously that's different. But if you're at a cookout, you're socializing, you're drinking. You don't need all that.
See now, luckily, if you happen to be one of the chosen few that's invited to TJ's graduation party over the weekend,
I was not.
You get both.
Yeah.
Because we will have both.
Yeah.
Would you rather watch a movie on a projector outside or have a fire?
That's a tough one. I'm gonna go with movie. We're both movie guys, so I'm gonna go movie.
I would go, yeah.
Not Jaws, but any other.
I'm
movie.
not like a huge like, oh, let's get a fire going, sit outside. You end
Yeah.
up like, especially if it's like a real fire. Like
Yeah.
I have one of those fire pits that's gas,
Right.
so you don't end up stinking at the end of the night.
Well,
Like,
but you
get
always
a,
get eaten by the mosquitoes.
but you get a
out there,
good
too.
fire, that someone starts, and then it's great to sit around, and then the next day you reek.
Oh yeah.
So that's
We used to
that's
do that a
drawback.
lot in high school, and we'd all come home. My clothes would come home reeking of the fire, not of anything else, just of the fire.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And it was always a good cover up though for what else.
Okay,
was
Kyle's
going
got a couple more here.
These
Travel
are
to
some
Cape
softball
Cod.
questions. These are some softball would you rather's. Oh my god.
on. Oh, I like it.
What you
Summer's
don't?
neat.
What you don't want them?
No, go for it. I mean, they're just
Travel to Cape Cod or to Maine. Yeah, he's giving you things that he wants to do, not like would you rather.
I would say, I mean, I'm a vineyard guy, so I would probably guess I'd lean towards the Cape because it's the closest thing.
Yeah, I would go Cape.
I guess.
I would go Cape as well.
I'm not a huge Cape guy though. I'm an islands guy.
And the last one is the age-old question: beach or pool?
So I'd probably say pool because I'm not.
Pool is definitely the answer.
Sand is just not my best friend, but I would love to be at a pool by a beach so that if I wanted to go down to the beach for a little bit, you can, but I can't sit on a beach for a long time. Like it's not for me. Too much sand.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind the beach that much, but it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's like you drag everything to the beach. You get all the sand, you're dirty. You gotta get a shower when you're done. Like
Yeah.
the pool, just like you walk out, you're right there. You got everything you need.
nice.
You got your music. You got your food. You got
Right.
everything you need is right at the pool. And as you know, 50th anniversary, you have no fear of getting eaten by a shark in my pool.
Well, we can surprise Deuce. I was going to surprise both of you, but apparently in Oak Bluffs right now, there is a replica orca at the dock that's sitting there for the 50th anniversary. So,
Richard Dreyfuss was at the Harbor View yesterday, right? Or over the weekend, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go
big time.
I'm
big
gonna
doings.
take a picture on the orca for you guys, and I know I'm the biggest Jaws fan here, so that makes sense that it would be me.
So I'm going to try to sort of weave in and out of the nonsense. And
Yeah.
Kyle, thanks for the despite Alex's protestations.
That was good nonsense.
That was good. That was good nonsense.
trivia.
Good summer fodder.
Yeah.
Not like would you rather eat a goat or like whatever, like good things. So you
Yeah.
want ice cream or fruit, like watermelon. That's
No.
good stuff. Good
If you
choices.
answer
There's
watermelon to that,
no wrong answers.
there's a
but
wrong answer to that.
We'll have some football as well, and let's see. It's Curtis in St. Louis. If you were making the call, I'll direct this right at you, even though he doesn't.
Okay.
Okay. If you were making the calls, Evan,
Yes.
are there any free agents out there that or a possible trade that you would want to make heading into training camp?
That's a good question.
He throws some names out there that I don't think you'd be interested in at this point. Judon, Gilmore, Clowney.
No, I'm not too interested in the free agent market. Like, I don't think anybody that really catches my eye that's left that's going to move the needle.
Terry McLaurin?
Terry McLaurin would be awesome. I think that one is maybe even more far-fetched. But, like, Terry McLaurin, I would obviously offer what you got to offer to get a player like that. I do like the idea of somebody like Trey Hendrickson, but I think that you'd have to line up like a 2-year deal with him and like
a lot of moving parts, but I would definitely be interested in something like that.
Right, because I do think that that's the one spot on the edge that they could really use a dude there. Like they could really use a guy that can draw some attention and that can win a one-on-one and consistently, and he's a great player. So I would probably say, other than McLaurin, I'd probably say Trey Hendrickson, but I don't know how that lines up. Like, I don't know how that lines up for both parties, that he wants to be here, he's signing a contract here. I just don't know how that lines up.
He throws Zion Johnson out there as a potential trade guy. I think he's going into the last year of his deal. Again, a lot of moving parts with some of those things. His second question, if you could add any ex-Patriot and insert them on this current roster, who would you add? The only rule is it can't be Brady.
Can't be Brady. We've had answered this question before, and I feel like my answer is the same. I would still say Randy Moss. Like I still feel like
Moss is a good answer to that question.
I think it's between Gronk or Moss, and obviously Gronk is Gronk, and he's unreal. But you at least have a NFL caliber tight end in Hunter Henry. Like Hunter Henry is a good player. He's not Gronk, but he's a good player. You don't have anything on this team close to Randy Moss. So I would say Randy Moss for that reason. It just balances everything out a little bit nicely. Whereas with Gronk and Henry, now you're probably your two most consistent pass catchers are both tight ends. You know,
So Justin in New Hampshire is soft like you, Evan. He says maybe it's the New Englander in me, but I'd much rather be sitting in 43-degree weather right now than this 90-degree heat. Yeah.
I disagree with that.
Soft.
No, I'm
soft.
Like 65 and sunny is the sweet spot. That's the best weather right there. Not too hot, not too cold. That's ideal weather. But I don't mind summer. I just don't mind. I mind extreme heat like today. Today is too much.
So I guess this is something you brought up. This is from Chad in L.A. Maybe something you and Alex talked about on a recent edition of Catch 22.
Yes.
Because he directs it mostly to you, but hopefully it invokes a longer discussion. On Catch 22, Evan talked about the right side of the offensive line being about 900 pounds of human meat.
Yeah.
Which that can only be a phrase that you would say.
Yes. I mean, it's just a bunch of hog muscles.
Whereas the left side being both undetermined and lighter.
Yeah.
My question is the left side lighter for mobility purposes in preparation for Maye's running ability? Will he most likely run to the left? Any further reasoning and discussion would be appreciated. Off the top of my head, I would say no. I don't necessarily think that that's anything that is intentional.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that it's just the way it kind of worked out. The players that are available and the players that you get, you can't. It would have been great if we could have stretched out Will Campbell to have 34-inch arms and an 80-inch wingspan, but he doesn't have that. So this is the players that you're dealt with. But it was just something that we were talking about on Catch because it's a combination of who's ever next to Campbell, but also who's ever next to Bradbury at left guard too. Bradbury being a smaller center as well. And if you just look at measurables and things like that, Cole Strange has always been a little bit more on the lighter side for an interior player.
Yep.
He's a little bit higher cut too. He's not exactly a cinder block or like a low center of gravity kind of guy. So if you're going to put him next to Campbell, I just watching it out at training camp or out at spring practices, like you could see the difference in like girth, like width of the line on the right side versus the left side. It was pretty obvious actually to the the naked eye just seeing it. And so I just wonder if that comes into play. I'm not saying it's the end all be all, but Caden Wallace is a little bit bigger of a guy. He's a little wider, he's a little stockier. Jared Wilson's a little bit bigger, stockier as well. Sidy Sow is certainly bigger. He's like 6'4", 320, bigger guy. Does that come into play at all that next to a guy that has arm length wingspan question marks and a smaller center in Bradbury, do you want like a wide-bodied left guard that can take up some more space?
Definitely make an argument both ways, and I think you just did.
Yeah.
The pros and cons. I don't necessarily think that. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think teams necessarily go about putting their lines together with a size. I mean, they might have a style that they want.
Yeah.
And, like Bill Parcells, when Bill Parcells first came to New England, they had former first-round pick left tackle in Pat Harlow. I think he played right tackle at the time because I think Armstrong was still here. He was a pretty good player. Pat Harlow was a pretty good player for the Patriots. Wasn't Parcells' kind of tackle. A little bit angular and not as broad. I think Bill liked big road graders.
Like the big butts.
Yeah, and it wasn't his kind of guy.
Yeah.
That I could understand, if the coach has a specific style. It wouldn't make any sense to me like he wants a specific style of big guy on one side and a more athletic, smaller build on the other side. That, to me, I don't think would be by design. It just kind of working out that way.
Yeah, like I don't know if it was by design, but, when they were hubbing in the heyday, the line was Shaq Mason and Marcus Cannon on one side and
big guys,
Tooney and Solder on the other side, who are more athletic, more of the slimmer type. So it's not something that's that different from that sort of thing, I suppose. But Moses and Onwenu are monsters. Like those, especially in terms of height, Moses, but like both of them are just a lot of weight and a lot of sand on that right side, whereas the left side just was smaller, noticeably smaller. So we'll see if that is a factor, but it might help, especially on the inside, if you had somebody next to Bradbury. Like if you had Onwenu and let's just say he earns it in like City So, or your 2 starting guards on either side of Bradbury, like you have an anchor there. Like you have 2 guys that have some play strength and some girth to them, which might help.
So I asked a little while ago for people to start sending in what they are excited about and what they're concerned about. And this isn't necessarily related to that. We have some emails coming in, which I will read in a little bit. But Pete in Seattle, a little bit of a different take on something that might be concerning. He says it's been a bit since we've talked about win-loss predictions in May. I think it was natural that most of the Boston media was hyper-focused on just the Patriots and their high off-season grades when those kinds of things were evaluated. 2 thoughts come to mind. Many other teams that the Patriots will play also receive very high off-season grades, and he gives an example of the Raiders. He also says that other teams faced a slew of injuries last year that they may not face this year, and one of the examples for that is the Dolphins. So with that in mind, which of the 2025 matchups, Ev, do you think most fans are underestimating due to the opponent's results from last year and or how good their offseason was? Love the work you guys do. Thanks for your dedication and the passion you bring day to day.
Thank you. That's a good question. I would agree with him, though, and in the broader picture as I think about that question, because this is what I've been saying. Like, the schedule looks what the schedule looks on paper today, but who knows what the schedule is going to look like in 4 or 5 months when the season starts. Like, some of these teams might end up being good that we aren't expecting to be good. I don't know. Like, is it possible that Aaron Rodgers finds a fountain of youth in Pittsburgh and all of a sudden that September game against Pittsburgh is a tough game? That's a really good defense.
It's a great pick.
Aaron Rodgers is a player that
what if he plays like he did in Week 3 against you last year?
Right. I mean, he looked like an MVP.
Yeah.
And if he has that kind of game, then you're going to lose.
If you had told me after that game, that Thursday night game, that he was going to have the season that he had, I wouldn't have bought it.
No. And
because he looked good that night.
When he was on his spot, he can still throw it. He just doesn't move the way that he used to move anymore.
Agreed.
And I would also say, a little bit afraid to get hit at times in the pocket too.
Yeah, more than just a little.
And those 2 things stood out to me. But watching him, when he sees man-to-man coverage and he has a bucket to throw to drop a ball into a bucket in a window, like, he can still do that at a very high level. He just wasn't as mobile, and he wasn't as playmakery and gunslingery like we've seen in his MVP years. But especially that early on in the season, before the wear and tear starts to catch up to him, like, there's a very good chance you might see a pretty good version of Aaron Rodgers against Pittsburgh that early in the year.
All right, so you know what's going to happen now. It's been a while since I've had to man the phone lines, but our buddy Nate in Connecticut, who's been a very regular caller as of late, is going to be first up on the Patriots Unfiltered hotline. What's up, Nate?
Hey, guys. Can you guys hear me well today?
Yep.
Got it.
All right. So my first off, I have sort of a prediction / hot take. So I believe this offseason we are going to be trading Kendrick Bourne to the 49ers for like a late round draft pick. I'm thinking 4th or 5th. Coming off that ACL last year, he hasn't really been himself. And I'm really thinking that we can get something off of him. And I know you guys in like the past shows, I think I Catch 22, have listed Bourne and Booty as trade candidates. And I would rather trade Bourne over Booty because I know Booty has more potential. And Bourne is sort of like his career is maybe fading off. I know he had a plus on the McDaniels side of things, but I don't think he's going to be a Patriot this year. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Nate. Yeah, I agree with him.
I think he could go. I don't think you're getting a 4th or a 5th round pick for him.
No, but I agree with the premise of
me too.
He's probably the preferred one to go, and it's no offense to Kendrick Bourne, but he's on the other side of 30 at this point. He's had the major injury. He's the more expensive player just contractually. He's due about $7.5, $8 million of a cap hit this year compared to Booty on a rookie contract, 6th round pick. So in all ways, it kind of feels like Booty's arrow is pointing this way potentially, and Bourne's arrow is pointing the other direction. but everybody else knows that too. So why are they I don't know if you're getting a 4th or 5th. I think maybe you get a 6th, maybe.
Yeah, I would say even that's optimistic.
Yeah.
I would say probably a 7th, or maybe a pick swap, 6th,
Yeah, or like
6th,
conditional
7th
pick or
kind of
something,
deal.
yeah.
Next email, it doesn't leave his name, but wants to know about some UDFAs. Anyone standing out to you, Ev? He wants to know specifically if we've seen anything from Josh Minkins. He says he's 4th on the depth chart. There is really no depth chart yet, so I wouldn't necessarily.
Yeah, so
fall into
Minkins, I believe they're going to try him out at corner. There's some rumors of him maybe playing some more safety than corner in the NFL, but I think that they're going to keep him at corner for the time being, just based off the spring. Maybe some slot, maybe some nickel corner in his future as well. I didn't see him get a ton of run with meaningful people around him. There's a lot more opportunity stuff during the spring, so I don't know if he's necessarily in the cards yet. Obviously, we've talked a ton about Efton Chisholm and Len Larison. Those are the two guys that are making the most noise. But I would also say, I still feel like C.J. Dupree will have his say before we're done here. He's a inline blocking tight end. That's not going to be his time to shine in the spring. When we're in shorts and T-shirts, it's not going to really be his setting to thrive in. So let's see when the pads come on if Dupree can block his way onto the roster, which is probably his best path. Other than that, I think the only other guy that really is notable at this point is Jack Conley, the offensive lineman from Boston College, who can basically play anywhere on the line besides maybe center. But he's just a big dude. He's 6'7", 340. Can play guard, can play tackle, can play muscle tight end, jumbo tight end. So he's got a lot of versatility. So he's an interesting player.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting once the pads come on. We'll see if the Chisholms and the Larisons can build off of whatever momentum they may or may not have started to generate, during the spring camps. But yeah, there's a lot of them. There's, I want to say
16.
Is there 16 UDFAs? Yeah. I mean, I was going to say there's more than 24 when you combine the first-year players, guys like John Giles, Miles Battle, those kinds of guys.
Oh, yeah.
With the UDFAs. So, long way of me saying there are going to be 1 or 2 at least that make the roster because there's just sheer numbers. It would be hard not to. I wanted to
There's a chance, not to cut you off.
Go ahead. There's
a chance that there's more 2025 UDFAs on the Patriots roster than 2024 draft picks.
Bold.
That there's a chance. I'm not saying it's going to happen.
I don't think it's ridiculous.
But Drake Maye is pretty much the only 2024 draft pick that's 100% going to be here. And so
you can make an argument for or against the Bakers and the Polks of the world, for sure.
Yeah.
I wanted to stick with the PU hotline though and go back to Connecticut to Colin. Colin, what do you got today? Colin. See?
Colin.
The first one worked. Second one didn't. I'll go to Emory in Virginia, and then if not, we push away from the blackjack.
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
There we go, Emory. Thank you, my friend.
Always rely on Emory.
All right. Good afternoon, gentlemen. Hey, is this conversation just restricted to the OTAs and the upcoming training camp?
No, we can go any direction you want.
Okay, thank you. Hey, listen, I got a question, at least a comment about a former player here, and I've been on this thing here for about a couple of months. Asante Samuel.
Yep.
When I look at his overall numbers, they're very comparable to Ty Law. I'm not saying he was better than Ty Law, but I think he's in that conversation. When I look 11 seasons, 157 games, 51 interceptions, 7 of them returned for touchdowns during the regular season. He has the postseason record for 4 touchdowns, interception return for touchdowns. And you guys ever try to reach out to him and see what's up? Any chance of him maybe coming back to the New England area? Because I enjoy watching that guy. And my last statement, I never heard anything negative about him as far as getting arrested or anything like that.
No,
but
I don't think he was ever in any trouble off the field.
Just doesn't like Bill.
Yeah, he was not a huge fan of Belichick, and it stemmed from what I think he felt was maybe some dishonesty from the coach to the player. I think when his contract was up, and I think that I think Asante Samuel felt like the team was very much in favor of re-signing him, and it turned out that the coach was not necessarily in favor of re-signing him, and he ended up going elsewhere. And you're right, he had a terrific career when he left here. He had some good years in Philly. Good player. I think that Ty Law was a better player, but when you started talking, Emery, I was thinking, we never really even bring him up for a possibility of Patriots Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And maybe we should. Maybe he's a guy that we should be discussing in those meetings. For obvious reasons, we've talked about in many shows. He's got no shot right now to get past the process. But, yeah, he's a very good player for a lot of years. Big time plays, too, in big games.
Yeah, and a real turnover machine, like a guy that picked off a lot of passes, like Emery said. And I think the biggest thing just from the relationship with the organization is he's been very vocally anti-Bill Belichick.
Oh, yeah.
On social media, and I'm not saying he's saying things that are like not any like rocket shots at Bill or necessarily in terms of personal stuff, but like just the coaching and like taking credit. I remember he took credit for like changing how corners in New England play to play off coverage more and the different steps that they take to get more interceptions on, just little things like that he's been very critical of Bill about in general. And so it just, I don't know if that bridge will be mended. Now, we talked a little bit because Emery called into Catch 22 and asked about it too with Samuel. He did overlap with Vrabel for quite a bit. So maybe if they had any sort of relationship and if that door were ever to be open again, maybe it's Vrabel bringing him back into sort of the family, so to speak, here in New England. But a really good player. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but the ball went through his hands in Super Bowl 49. Yeah. Or which one was it? Super Bowl?
No, the big Super Bowl.
Yeah,
42.
42.
Yeah.
I said 49.
It was the big one. And I always felt like he was given more blame for not making the play than he deserved. I don't think it was a drop. I think the ball was high.
Yeah.
I think he kind of mistimed the jump a little bit and was sort of on the
That's
way
how I
down
remember
when the
it.
ball was coming through, but it wasn't like a flat-out drop. In that same drive, there's a ball that hit Brandon Merriweather in the chest.
Yeah.
That he didn't catch, that no one ever brings up, but
on the scale
he doesn't
of,
he doesn't go on Twitter and make fun
Right.
of Bill Belichick, so we know why.
On the scale of 1 to Wes Welker's drop in the next Super Bowl, where does the Samuel
Welker's
one?
was more.
You think Welker's
I think
was
Welker's more of an egregious drop.
Yeah.
Than and I've been very defensive of Welker too.
Right.
I just never really saw that play as, that's a play that a defensive back has got to make. I didn't feel like it was that way. Now maybe Christian Gonzalez.
Right.
With his,
Or
just
Ty Law.
elite athleticism. Ty Law, I don't think you would have been able to get up that high.
Yeah.
Christian Gonzalez had the size and
Right.
the athleticism, I think, maybe to make the play. I just didn't look at it as like this blown play by Asante Samuel like everybody else did. But of course, he left in free agency shortly thereafter,
So
and it becomes he cost us an undefeated season.
Yeah.
You know me well enough. Those little things sort of annoy me a little bit.
So remind me again though of like when in the game exactly was that?
It was the last drive.
It was right before the Burris touchdown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was on the sideline. He picks the pass off. The game's over.
Right.
I mean, it's simple as that.
Yeah.
Andrew is in Maine. He's happy that we're holding down the fort, but bummed that we would choose the Cape over Maine. Both are great, but if you guys are more pool guys, then I guess I get it. But he says he was torn when the Patriots picked Henderson in the draft, thinking that the talent of Burden was more of a need. However, I've come full circle on it, and I am now loving it. The guy seems to do everything well. On that note, we are suddenly very deep at the position with Stevenson, Henderson, Gibson, and Larison. I'm just throwing Larison onto the depth chart now. While I love it, I'm wondering your thoughts on us possibly trading Stevenson next season for solid value. No disrespect to the guy at all. I love him, but I believe he is one of the higher paid backs in the league now. And he did have 7 fumbles last year. Maybe give Henderson this year to acclimate, but I'm seeing massive upside potential for him. And while he's fresh and on a rookie deal, we should consider it. I suspect of the 4, Gibson and Larison is more likely to Gibson or Larison is more likely to go, but wanted to hear your thoughts.
So I would be two things. One, I'd be wary of expecting to get much back from Stevenson. He is a running back that's now been paid well, that typically you just don't see unless it's Christian McCaffrey. Like you're not seeing teams giving up a ton of capital for a player that's at that position that has been paid, right? I don't see that coming back. The other thing, Travion Henderson at his best is not a full-time lead running back. He is in a platoon. He's a spell back. He's a sub-package back, pass game back, whatever you want to call it. But I don't think that he's really destined to be a guy that is Derrick Henry, where it's like all on his shoulders and he's out there 70-80% of the time. I think you're going to run him into the ground doing that. He doesn't have the size. He doesn't have the skill set.
Totally agree. I would say that I agree with Andrew's premise that Stevenson could be, sort of nearing the end here, but not for the reasons that he says, because I agree with you. I don't think Henderson projects to be a bell cow.
No.
I did get a chance, humble brag, to talk to Mike Vrabel a couple of weeks ago, and I asked him a question about the style, preferred style of play. It was kind of a generic, open-ended question, but in my mind, I was thinking the way he played in Tennessee, and he fed right into it. He goes, well, we don't have a 255-pound running back. And it was his way of saying, no, I had Derrick Henry. I had a special player at that position, and we obviously leaned on him. We would have been silly not to. And he's right. I don't necessarily expect them to just sit there and say, well, we're going to lean on Ramondre Stevenson and we're going to run the ball, 40 times a game and try to win that way. I would be surprised if they went about it that way.
Yeah, I wonder, I'd be surprised if they did that too. I don't think that's the plan. I don't think it should be. But when it comes to that other group of, if we put Henderson in there, and Larison gets a shout in there too. You got Larison, Gibson, Henderson. To me, there's a lot of overlap in terms of what those guys are bringing to the table in terms of skill set. Do you need all three of those guys on the roster? Even Henderson and Gibson, to me, feel a little bit redundant. They're both really sub-package, pass game type players, space players, speed backs. I wonder how that all sorts itself out, because there's a world, in my opinion, where it's not going to be Henderson. You just drafted him in the second round. He's going to play. So is Antonio Gibson, what's his role? Where are his snaps available to him? Is he here just in case of an emergency? If one of those guys get hurt, then he gets his opportunity.
Right.
And then he's just kind of sitting around the rest of the time on the sideline. I don't know if Larison continues to do what he did in the spring when the pads come on in the summertime, and Antonio Gibson's a pretty expensive emergency back. I don't know if you need to keep all of that here. So maybe it ends up being Gibson that's the odd man out, because if Henderson's as good as we think he's going to be, then he's going to be better at pretty much everything than Gibson. So, where is Gibson factoring in?
That's the hope.
Yeah.
That's the hope, is that I keep saying the same way, the players you're bringing in are better than the players they're replacing, and that's how you rebuild. That's the only way, really, to do it. Dan is in Virginia via Michigan. He's trying to come out. He's using his creative juices, because you know how when Mike and I do our shows together, it's PP and the Deuce.
Of course.
So it's time to come up with a name for Paul and Evan's show. With Evan's laser-like focus on game details and Paul's rep for pointing out virtually anything negative that could possibly come up in any situation. Could you guys be the light in the dark? Well, with the occasionally snarky nature of both of you, not to mention your respective hair colors, Paul's love of music, could salt and pepper be a better fit? I kind of like that.
I do like that.
I like salt and pepper.
I do that.
Oh, he writes pepper, so he doesn't know it's pepper.
Yeah, we're in Boston.
In terms of things that we're excited or concerned about, one question I have is regarding the coach's perspective for this season. Do you think they're taking a bottom-line approach and only looking at wins and losses, or are they taking a more nuanced approach like the PU crew, where it's more of a matter of whether they're seeing improvement? If it's the latter, what criteria do you think they're looking at, aside from Vrabel's statement about being good enough to take advantage of bad football?
Well, I think that is the bottom line. I think that's where he's at right now. I don't think that they're ever going to put wins-loss totals out there. I don't think Mike Vrabel's going to come out ever and say, I expect us to win 10 games this year. Like that, there's just no reason to do that.
No.
But in terms of where the baseline is, yeah, I think that they feel like every year in this league, there's a million coin flip games every single week where a team that just makes a couple of less mistakes than the other team is the one that ends up winning the game. If you can do that more often this year and you don't have losses like you did last year, to me, the one that always stands out is the one in Tennessee. Like that was such a winnable game in Tennessee that you just really cost yourself a win down there. If you can win that type of game this year, then that's progress. And if you don't just do it once, you got to do it multiple times. But if you are winning those types of games, that's going to get you to 7 or 8 wins. And then we'll see where the cards lie in terms of the other games. But that to me is the baseline. Like if you can beat those types of teams and you can come out of playing mistake-free football and better, cleaner football than these other teams that are worse than you, then you're in good shape.
So in order to do that, they're going to obviously have to play better defense. I'm thinking of that Tennessee game that you bring up. And do you remember how the overtime, the first possession in overtime, Tennessee got the ball and they, no one talks about that drive the way they do the Jacksonville drive that happened in London, but it was virtually the same thing. They just lined up and ran the ball 100 times in a row.
The opening drive of the game, too, they did the same thing. They went right down the field.
Jeremy is a little concerned, with all the improvement they've made on defense. He's a little worried about Terrell Williams.
Sure.
And his presence, do you think that they've missed him? And what will they do if he's not able to come back? Have they been handicapped at all by his absence?
I don't know if they've been handicapped in May and June. I think that would be a little strong to say that this is starting to affect them already. But I definitely feel as though they have enough continuity with the staff, meaning guys that were with Vrabel in Tennessee and understand how he wants to run the defense and how Terrell Williams wants to run the defense, that you can install a defense because they have enough guys that have already been in the defense. But in terms of the other stuff, yeah, it's obviously a concern once we get in season. Play calling is a big one. It would be probably Zach Kerr. That would be the true de facto defensive coordinator calling plays. Was their game planning good enough? Is there really, with a guy like Terrell Williams, is their motivation factor good enough? I think that's what he's been most known for, is like, do they still have that kind of energy and do they still play with that kind of fire and that buzz on game day? That's what he's been known for, is getting that out of players.
Yeah, so hopefully they'll be able to have all of that in play. But I agree with you. I think it's Zach Kerr, and he's the guy that's been sort of the interim. And Terrell Williams, they've made a big deal out of this. The players, the coaches, and Williams himself has been very actively involved from a communication standpoint. They've been in communication every day. I don't think it has handicapped anything as of yet.
No.
Not an ideal situation if it lasts into the season, for sure. I totally understand where the concern would be there. Speaking of concerns, Patrick in Ottawa is right along our lines, the offensive line. Is this really what we're going to go with? I usually worry about injury and whatnot, but I think if we get 1 or 2 guys goes down, we're in a lot of trouble. Any additions that they might be able to make?
Yeah,
talked a little bit about that earlier.
It's obviously fair. I mean, you went into the offseason with major holes at really both tackle spots. And then obviously the hole that was created at center with David Andrews being released and then retiring. So we've talked about this. It's going to take a couple years to build out the depth of the entire roster. Like right now, I feel much better about where their all 22 is on, their starting 11 on both sides of the ball, I feel like has improved. But they've sunk all their resources into getting the starters improved. So that doesn't necessarily mean that the second stringers and the third stringers are going to be improved, because all your top resources are going to Will Campbell and to Stephon Diggs and to Milton Williams and that top of the roster type of guys. So it's going to be tough. Like if Will Campbell, knock on wood, if Will Campbell gets hurt, it's Vidarian Lowe is probably back into the starting lineup. If Morgan Moses gets hurt, then it's Caden Wallace or Trey Jacobs or whatever. So you're probably right back to where you were
absolutely
last year.
That's why it's our biggest concern. Yeah. We're about halfway through. We're moving all right here.
Right?
Thanks.
Salt and pepper? Is that what we're going
Fred
with?
who?
This bug is just...
Mike what?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, Mike's a defense guy.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if he's told you
I don't know
that.
if he told you, but he only likes hockey, and he's
in defense.
And he refuses
it's
to talk
ironic
about
because he
anything
played no defense when he played defenseman in hockey. He was more of an offensive specialist.
What I hear is like it was like a Mason Lohrei type.
Yeah, minus 43.
Yeah. Sounds right.
So I want to get to that quarter century team after the break, but before I do, I want to make sure that Patriots fans know if you want to see Toyota's best offers, including those not seen on TV, go to buyatoyota.com. It's Toyota's official website for deals from the official vehicle of the New England Patriots. Toyota, let's go places. All right, Alex, let's take a quick break. We got the quarter century team coming back. We got a ton of emails coming in, so I thank you guys for participating that way. We still got Sean in Vancouver on the line. We'll be back with some of that in a blink.
Whether you're in the game or betting on the game, you'll need a game plan. DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of the New England Patriots, provides you with everything you need to build your personal betting game plan so you can get in on all the action while practicing safe bets. Visit DraftKings.com/responsible-gaming to learn more about all the safe betting tools DraftKings has to offer. Hope is here, 800-327-5050 or gamblinghelplinema.org. Must be 21 plus. Play it smart from the start. GameSenseMA.com. Physically present in Massachusetts. See DraftKings.com/responsible-gaming for details and state-specific responsible gambling resources.
Isn't it time to get exactly what you want? Welcome to Red Hot Deal Days from Verizon, where you get your pick of our best deals. Like My Plan, where you can pick the perks you want and save on every one. For limited time, bring your own phones to a Verizon store and you can get My Plan for our best price ever. Get exactly what you want in your phone plan and only pay for what you need. Bring your phones to your Verizon store today and get My Plan. These deals won't last. It's your Verizon.
With FedEx One Rate, you can ship to your student for a simple, predictable flat rate. Send a box full of home-baked treats that say, "Your father and I miss you." Or send a box full of instant noodles that says, "Your father and I would like you to stop asking us for money." Either way, one rate fits all. FedEx One Rate. 2-day shipping, one flat rate. Starting at $14.50. Visit FedEx.com/OneRate for details. Exclusions apply.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to PU Extra. T-Spown here with Chris Cassidy.
How we doing?
Yeah, we got that right there. Guys, if your emails don't get read on the show, send the podcast at patriots.com and we'll read them right here. So, Chris, let's get into it. We got some Christian LA. Love and hate? I don't know. I haven't clicked in yet. But Christian in LA. Bill from Norfolk. What's worse than listening to Christian try and talk about football, listening to try and talk about his personal life? I try to tune him out because I started to cringe at the sound of his voice. My theory as to why you guys keep allowing him on is because he fills that Eric-sized void in your heart. Someone who sounds pretentious that we all love to hate. Go Pats, undefeated season covered with Chisholm winning Rookie of the Year.
Oh,
well, listen. Well, there's a lot to take here.
Yeah, what a subtle little plunge of Chisholm winning Rookie of the Year.
Christian from LA. We don't hate you here because we don't know you yet.
Yeah,
we listen occasionally, but not enough to.
This is definitely a safe space. People need to stop with the Christian from LA.
Yeah, Christian, send your rebuttal here and we'll read it live. But Chris, all right, so we got that. Christian LA. I think we'll get back to him. We do miss Scal, by the way. Scal's before your time, but we'll talk about Afton Chisholm. I mean. He's got that juice.
He's had a pretty good camp so far. I mean, I think.
But remember, it's June.
It is June. Yep. It's early. I mean, minicamp just wrapped up. Obviously, he was here all OTAs. Between him and Len Larson have really been truly like the main guys who's had a lot of focus from coaches. And, I think, from my point of view, I think they've shown a lot of improvement over their time being here so far as undrafted free agents. But, I think Chisholm has some promise in there.
New England, we love our underdog story wide receiver, and he's showing all those traits right now. So people keep grasping at things from the past, but we'll hopefully he can work out for the next 6 weeks and carry this over to July.
What's cool about these guys too is they know what's on the line. You know what I mean? It's like you kind of get brought into the situation. Okay, I wasn't drafted, but I'm being put in this premier organization, and I have to showcase. Like, they're trying to make a stance, kind of come up a little bit here in the division, in the league. You got to show that you can do it as well. And be
Vrabel's
a
guy
factor,
you want to play for. I will say we went out to some of the practices. Night and day difference, at least.
Sure.
Just for it looks just more controlled and organized.
Absolutely.
Everybody kind of knows what they're doing, so I'm excited for this training camp coming
it'll
up.
be cool. It'll be cool.
All right, we got some over-unders from Speed and Fresno. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Games with the same starting O-line, 5.5.
I'm going to go over.
Yeah, I think so too.
I'm going to go over this year.
Yeah, barring injury.
I think center is the number one area that could have movement.
Not guard, left guard?
I do believe center will be more of the focus this year.
All right, Drake Maye passing touchdowns, 19.5.
I'm gonna go
over. I'm being optimistic. I think you need to go over.
I'm gonna say over, but 19 kind of sounds like a push. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know why, but it's a pretty good number.
It's a passing league.
I'm gonna say over. I'll say over. I think he'll get 22.
At this one, Patriots rushing touchdowns, 15.5. I think the passing is going to be higher because I think 15.5 is going to be. I think it might be under.
Yeah,
because I think it's going to be a lot of rollouts with little 5-yard screen touchdowns.
Yeah, you could also. I mean,
I say under?
I'm curious the incorporation of Drake runs because they could put that into factor, especially inside the 5, if you're in a zone fake or a bootleg or something kind of. You have the ability with Drake's
You have options now.
So you
have options now.
And again, if you keep speed on that at running back,
I'm saying under because the passing attack's so good.
I agree. Yeah.
All right, secondary's league-wide ranking 7th.
League-wide ranking 7th. I'm gonna go over this year.
Over, so being they're gonna be ranked higher.
I think they're gonna be ranked higher.
Yeah, same.
I think they could be top 5 this year.
No fly zone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, we're on that. Feather ruffling post-game pressers by Vrabel, 1.5. I hope it's under. I hope it's under because that means we've had a good season.
Yeah, I'm gonna just safely say under on that one.
Number of moderate or worse scandals to hit the program this year, 1.5.
Under.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And scandals start week 1.
It's always gonna be.
We're good.
Yeah.
Eric Scalvino incognito appearances at home games, 0.5, obviously because he hates football. I'm under the mindset, love Scal, shout out Scal if you still listen. I don't think he's watched a single snap of Patriots football willingly since he left. So, yeah.
I wish I got to know him.
No, he's great.
I wish I got to know him.
One of a kind. All right, let's wrap it up with one more real quick. More Christian from L.A.
Oh.
Logan from Myrtle Beach. Christian from LA gets so much hate. It's wild. Yeah, he said a D-bag comment once in a while, but if he got it like that, I'm more interested to know what he does for a living and how he could get it on. Question for the crew. Who do y'all think will be the sleeper defensive player to make the team have an actual role on defense? I feel like we're pretty deep across the board, except at linebacker. I could see a DB or a pass rusher stepping up, having an unexpected impact for the team this year. Pass Nation.
I'm going to go with Javari Ritzy on the D-line from North Carolina. I think he's a big body. He can kind of fill the inside. He's an animal. I like Javari Ritzy a lot.
I think one of the DBs sneaks in.
Yeah.
Yeah, and more special team stuff like that because the starters are elite, but one of the defensive backs.
Yeah. I mean, Javari Ritzy being an undrafted rookie, I think he has a lot. I think he has a really big chance of making this team.
Yeah. So, all right, Chris, that was a good one right there. Guys, once again, send your emails to podcast@patriots.com. If it doesn't get around the show, we'll read it here. Let's get back to it.
And now, great moments in history.
I'm going to push back here on everybody. What does everybody have against Robbie Anderson?
He's never made an important catch in his career.
Against us, he's done well.
When?
Oh, I remember games.
Here we go. Andy Isabella, part 2.
Don't make me go to my phone.
Go.
Deuce. You have a computer there.
You want to know the answer to this.
He's a thoroughly average player who is...
He's like a David Givens type, isn't he?
Yeah, I have no interest in David Givens right now. Either.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, right now. No, but
They need a number 1 receiver. David Givens isn't that.
No, and I don't think Robbie Anderson is either.
No.
But
that's why I'm not interested.
Okay.
I got 3 of those.
But he's not going to get number 1 money, is he?
Of course he is.
You think so?
That's what he makes. Why do you think he's on the block?
Okay.
So you guys want to hear about
Thanks
Robbie
for the
Anderson?
kind words.
Oh, yeah. yeah.
Please do, because I have them.
Prolific career.
There was one reasonably good game.
There was one reasonably good game where he was targeted 12 times and had 4 catches for 76 yards.
That is the apex.
Ready, here we go. 2 for 34, none for none, 1 for 2. 3 for 24, 3 for 11, 1 for 10, and 1 for 2. He is 0-9 career against the Patriots.
Man.
He's had.
Maybe I'm thinking of Wayne Corbett.
That's another great moment from
See, Alex took care of me. Have you noticed lately, like the great moments in PU history have really not allowed me to necessarily shine? Some of my more ridiculous arguments have been focused on lately.
That was a good one.
That was one I was like, Robbie Anderson, Fred, why are you in love with Robbie Anderson? He's had big games against the Patriots. When? 2 for 12, 0 for, and I like Mike reads it, 0 for 0, none for none.
Yeah, I definitely remember, we were talking about Stephon Gilmore earlier. I definitely remember Stephon Gilmore, someone asked him before a Jets game, I believe it was, about Robbie Anderson, and he did not have too many concerns about going up against Robbie Anderson. It was like, well, he's fast. he was trying to find something to say nice about him, and he just couldn't.
Yeah, I remember similar to that. I used to do like a little matchup of the week, and I would try to get like the defensive backs against a good receiver or whatever. Yeah. And I remember it was the year after Antonio Brown left Pittsburgh, and it was Juju was like the guy.
Oh, it was J.C. Jackson, right?
And it wasn't just him. It was even guys like Devin McCourty, who were normally like pretty,
glowing,
conservative in their comments. They didn't necessarily say anything bad. It was more what they didn't say. It was Gilmore and McCourty, and I was writing this matchup up, and I was like, and they're like, Antonio Brown's a different animal. It was all about Antonio Brown and how great he was. But by omission, they were telling you, this ain't Antonio Brown. This is nothing to worry. And like Gilmore, very quietly, as you can remember the way he used to just whisper, like, yeah, he won't do anything against me. Like something like that. And I was like, oh, I guess I'll leave that part out.
Yeah, I remember J.C. Jackson similarly was talking about Juju. And somebody, at the time, Juju was having a really good year. It was that second season where he had that big production season, and someone asked J.C. Jackson if he thought Juju was a top 10 receiver in the NFL, and I just remember J.C. Jackson like looking bewildered and being like, top 10 Juju, like in the top 10? Yeah, they did not think very highly of Juju, which maybe we should have known that signing wasn't going to work out. But yeah, it was funny whenever those things happen.
I got a couple of quick would you rather games, and I think these guys now are starting to take it a little bit more the way Alex likes. So
Listen,
Alex,
man, I'm just looking for juice.
Alex
here.
took
Come
his
on.
ball and went home. So let's see, who is this? This is from David. Would you rather put a toothpick under your toenail and kick a wall?
What?
Or be a beat writer for the Cleveland Browns until the day you die?
A beat writer for the Cleveland Browns? Ow! Why would I want to hurt myself like that?
I would largely agree with that.
Yeah, the Browns.
The next one is be addicted to heroin.
Oh, Jesus.
Awfully harsh. Or live the rest of your life without being able to see.
All right.
I'd lose my sight.
Yeah, I guess the addicted to heroin thing is that's not.
Let's see. Chug a full glass of water the players soak in after a game, or stare directly into the sun for 1 whole minute.
I'd probably stare into the sun. I'll be fine.
Me too.
Yeah, you'll be fine. This is out there.
Yeah, this is what happens when you go up to Maine. This is Dave in Maine.
What are we doing?
Live in Antarctica for the rest of your life.
Okay.
Or go the rest of your life eating only pickles.
I'm going to Antarctica. I can eat whatever I want in Antarctica. There's no restrictions.
Yeah, I think I would take Antarctica.
Yeah.
Not ideal, but pickles. I mean, I like pickles, but
I'm not a pickles guy.
I get awfully sick of them in a hurry.
Yeah.
No, I think those were trying too hard. Those are trying a bit too hard.
Yeah, the drug one didn't.
One day they'll find a sweet spot.
Here's one. Let's see if this one can get it just right then, because this is this is Kyle, I think, with a response to Alex, who thought he was giving us softballs.
Oh yeah.
So he says Gonzo or Maye get injured for the year in camp, What would you rather, Gonzo or
God.
Maye?
I mean, why? Come on.
Now that's good stuff.
I guess Gonzo.
You got to
is
say
not
Gonzo because not the quarterback.
But like, what are we doing?
Here's an interesting one for you, Ev.
Okay.
The Patriots only win 2 games, or the Celtics only win 30 games. I would take the Celtics only winning 30 because Jason Tatum's hurt.
I would say
So you got your built-in excuse.
Oh man. I'm gonna say the Patriots only winning 2 because this is my job. Like I'm
You gotta
covering
be here anyway.
Yeah, I'm covering them whether they win 2 games or 12 games. That the Celtics is like what gives me life. So I would say that I need the Celtics to be good more.
All right, and he says the Bruins or Patriots never make it back to the playoffs for the rest of the decade.
Bruins. Sorry to my fiance, but Bruins.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
And obviously, Alex says, thanks for reading. It's all in jest.
Yes.
So Alex gets his way. He gets a couple of disgusting.
Yeah, those were some tough ones.
Would you rather?
I didn't like the disgusting ones. That's trying way too hard. Those are the sports ones. Those are pretty good.
So let's go back to the PU hotline and check in with our good buddy Sean in Vancouver. Sean, what's up?
Well, congratulations to Drake and Michael Maye on their recent marriage and honeymoon. I like this because it shows.
We left that out of the open.
Should have led with that. You're
Oh,
right.
it's okay. But
Good, Sean.
It's just what I like about it is it's between camps, right? So you're not interrupting the any kind of Patriot stuff with big life moments. Like you're planning that.
I don't know about that, Paul.
A prior regime cost Jarrett Stidham an opportunity to compete for a job. And I think he just went to a wedding. I don't even think it was his wedding.
No, I think it was a guest.
It was like when they were off.
What?
What'd you say?
Like now it's between camps. Like you're.
Yeah. Stidham did it in the off season too.
Oh my God, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Bill's tough. Yeah. So Evan, I also wanted to say, like here in Northwest, you might like it in the summer because like the high today is 72 Fahrenheit.
Beautiful.
So
Perfect
this might be nice weather for you to come visit next year.
Is it just right, Sean? Is it just perfect?
I've heard a lot of great things about Vancouver.
It's just moderate.
Not too hot, not
really
too
that
cold. Oh, that's good. I'm happy
Exactly,
for
yeah.
you. I'm happy for you.
Okay.
I would like to visit Vancouver. Not even kidding, but it's so far. But like I've heard great things about Vancouver.
I've never been there, and I have heard people talk about how nice it is. Seattle's beautiful.
It's like a 6-hour flight.
I always think Seattle's got to be pretty close, right? I mean, not close proximity, but like weather-wise, climate, and all that.
Oh, same. Yeah.
And Seattle's beautiful.
Seattle's still. I keep track of all of the because I'm spoiled and I get to go to a lot of NFL stadiums. Seattle's still never been.
You haven't checked that one off? It's a good place.
No, went to San Francisco for the first time last year, but not Seattle.
Sean, what worries you most about the Patriots heading into camp?
Like most people, it's the offensive line.
Yeah, I think that's the answer.
But that was the biggest problem last year. So they have improved, but it's very kind of temperamental.
No.
Yeah, no, I think that's the answer. Thanks, Sean.
Thank you.
Make sure stay comfortable. Stay comfortable out there. I don't want you to get overheated or anything. Noah in Toronto. I bet you Noah likes it when it gets warm. He's in Toronto, so it's hockey season the whole year. Noah, what's up?
Hey, I don't know, something that's been bothering me, but it's probably not that big a deal, but I'm frustrated that they haven't addressed left guard better. I feel like they had so much cap space in the offseason, and they still have like about $40 million in effective cap space, and like even now there's still guys out there like Brandon Scherf and Dalton Risner, and I'm kind of tired of going into the season with like a glaring hole at one of the offensive line spots, and I don't get why I don't know. I guess they're comfortable with Brady and, whoever else is battling it out, but I don't really feel that comfortable with them. Anyways, that's just what I wanted to get off my chest. And then the other thing, I was wondering if I've been rewatching the 2003 season, and I'm wondering if you guys had sort of Patriots Unfiltered or whatever it was called then available for those games. And yeah, that was it. I'll take it off the air.
Yeah. I had some issues with the phone there.
Yes, I think he was asking if we have.
He
access
rewatched
to,
the 03
He's trying
season?
to rewatch the games. I mean, a lot of them are on YouTube.
Yeah.
Like obviously,
that's what Deuce does.
We have them, but I don't think that's for public consumption.
No,
so.
but Deuce just goes on YouTube. He'd watch the whole '85 season.
Yeah, a lot of it's on YouTube if that's what you're looking for. But yeah, the thing about left guard, like I'm with him 100%, but I also, just to be fair, I see what they might have been thinking too, which is, hey, we've drafted a lot of guards in the last couple of years. Layden Robinson, Sidney So, Cole Strange. Maybe you think Caden Wallace is really naturally a guard with relatively high
throw
draft
Jake
picks.
Andrews into that mix.
Like you would think that one of those 4 or 5 guys is going to work out.
Yeah.
And so to then go out and pay another offensive lineman a veteran salary, I agree. It was a spot that they probably could have gotten a Morgan Moses of left guards and just set it and forget it type of player.
Yep.
But I also understand, hey, we feel pretty high about Layden Robinson.
What was the guy's name? I want to say he went to, maybe I'm thinking of a center. He went from Indy to Minnesota, which made Bradbury
Ryan
expendable.
Kelly, center.
Okay, that's not the guy I was thinking of. I think there was were the Patriots really interested in him?
I don't think.
I thought there was a guard that's highly
No.
regarded that got good money in free agency. The Patriots weren't interested in.
Oh,
But now I can't remember it. 'Cause
yeah, I mean, so that was
CTE sets in.
So that was the other thing about the guard spot too, is that, and not that this is the end all be all, but a lot of the free agents were right guards, career right guards. So like you could have signed Brandon Sheriff and moved him from right guard to left guard, and he's a good NFL player, so he probably would have survived and it probably would have been fine. But other than Tooney, there really wasn't a guy that was like, okay, this is a true left guard that's a really good player that's available.
Tooney's that's a legit second guess though, because there
100%.
wasn't a huge package for the trade that
Right.
Chicago they wanted to pay. They agreed to pay him.
Yeah,
And
that's the one.
And you had the money, as Sean pointed out.
Yeah, James Daniels
Or,
moved from Pittsburgh to Miami, free agency. He's a guy that's played a little center, a little bit of guard. That probably could have played left guard, but he's coming off an injury. I get it. I think that's if we look back on the offseason, there's probably going to be 2 second guesses. One is going to be that receiver trade, like a DK Metcalf deal that they didn't do, and the other is probably going to be not. Again, who is the Morgan Moses of left guards? Just a veteran that for 1 year is going to come in and make sure that spot is taken care of, and as you develop some of these other guys behind him.
Yeah, I mean, fair, absolutely fair second guesses. We'll see. Cole Strange, I think this is a crossroads year, obviously, and we'll see if his athleticism wins out or if he just doesn't have it.
Yeah.
From a health standpoint, especially. Nick in New York is the next to chime in with his worries. A little bit of a different concern here. He's wondering if any of us has any problems or worries about Milton Williams' run defense.
So I can't lie, and I don't want to change now that he's a Patriot and they made the move. I had pointed out when they made the move right around there that he has never been the guy on the defensive line. He's played on a stacked defensive line in Philadelphia. He's been I'd say part-time is probably a little strong. He's been a rotational player on that defensive line. He's certainly favored more playing the pass and being in on obvious pass like third downs and things like that. So when he plays more, does his production follow? Like, does the efficiency continue when he plays more snaps so that now he's just even more productive than he was in Philadelphia in a bigger role? Or was he that type of guy that was really built to be in a bigger rotation and playing, maybe being Robin to Jalen Carter's Batman?
Yeah, I mean, that's my concern.
That's a legitimate concern. It is. And we'll see if he ends up playing that. Now, for the Patriots, maybe they think that even if they have two Robins and Christian Barmore and Milton Williams, two Robins equals a Batman. So like they'll play off of each other and they'll be okay just, having each other there. But it's a fair point. Milton Williams in general, I think there's not zero risk with that signing.
So the 4th of July is right around the corner, right? You know who else knows?
Who?
Bob.
Bob, our big friend.
Bob has us covered.
Yeah.
He says, attention team, the 4th of July is just around the corner, and you can stock up on everything you need to host a winning weekend get-together at Bob's Discount Furniture. Join Bob's 4 for the 4th celebration and shop must-haves for every room, like featured pack sectionals, perfect for hosting, party-ready dining sets, dining sets, and Consumer Reports recommended mattresses at unbelievable values. Cue the fireworks. So stop in and get holiday weekend ready at Bob's Discount Furniture, the official furniture store of the New England Patriots. Ev, I wanted to talk a little bit about, I want to transition a little bit and get to the quarter century team.
Yeah.
Very controversial right at the top. And this is something I think was a combo platter here from ESPN and PFF, correct?
Oh, my guys.
Right? All your guys, the Aaron Schatzes of the world.
No, no, PFF.
Well, he is in here.
Oh, okay. So then it's
Schatz has some of these write-ups.
DVOA. Yep.
Oh, geez, looks like Schatz wrote a lot of these write-ups.
Oh, so he's
Seth Walder.
Seth is an analytics guy.
Yeah. So a lot of different guys like that are involved.
Seth, very excited about the Patriots rebuilding their analytics department.
Oh,
very excited about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They should be.
Yeah.
They should be. So a couple of stipulations they had for this team, and this is just what it sounds like. It's a quarter century. We're 2025, so it's the best players in the league. He says players are still eligible if they began their careers in the 90s, but only production beginning with the 2000 season was considered.
Got it.
Decisions were made mostly on statistical output, so this is perfect for Evan, focusing on peak seasons while still rewarding longevity. We relied heavily on FTN's DYAR metric, defense adjusted yards above replacement.
Yes.
So this is right up your alley.
So this is
right now. You're saying, just keep it coming. This is
basically if you're a baseball fan, this is WAR, but football style.
Yeah, even less relevant.
Yeah.
Which calculates a player's value over the course of the season compared to a replacement level baseline.
Yes.
Other advanced statistics were also taken into account. This team includes 25 offensive players, 23 defensive players, and 5 special teams players. For another wrinkle, we filled out a full practice squad with the players who just missed the cut and listed them in their respective position groups. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to get right to it. I'm going to go position by position. I'll read you the guys. You tell me if you have any thoughts or problems. Quarterback, really controversial. Tom Brady.
I don't see it.
I don't see it, dog.
Yeah.
Peyton Manning, Patrick Mahomes. Those are your 3 quarterbacks.
Sounds about right.
Okay. Practice squad, Aaron Rodgers and Drew Brees.
Pretty good practice squad.
I don't have any issues with that. That would have been the way I did it, too. I would have given Mahomes the nod over Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
More winning.
Yeah, I probably agree with that.
Here's where it gets to
Never
me.
been a big Drew Brees guy, but I respect.
Me too, but I respect the
production.
numbers.
Yeah,
I mean, you
we're on the same page.
of all people should
I know,
respect
but
the numbers.
he's in a dome.
Well, I think I don't have to trash a guy after his career, but I think he never won an important game. They lost so many home playoff games and games that they were substantial favorites.
But the problem
and
is,
I think they were very lucky to get to the Super Bowl the year they won it.
The guys that are
Brett Favre'd them to the Super Bowl.
Brett Favre or Big Ben, you can say the same thing about those Steelers teams as the Saints, that they were kind of underperformers in a lot of ways too. So I get it. Drew Brees.
So running backs, they also picked 3.
Yeah, I didn't like these.
Priest Holmes.
Yeah, I had an issue.
I thought was a controversial pick, although a terrific player.
Great peak. Yeah.
Christian McCaffrey.
Yep.
And Derrick Henry.
Yeah, I didn't care for this list.
Okay. The practice squad is LaDainian Tomlinson.
Yeah, I don't know how he's on the practice squad.
I'd have LaDainian Tomlinson over any of these 3.
Yeah, I don't know.
Not just one of them, any of the 3.
Yeah, I don't get that.
I'm going to leave the glasses on, definitely. So, what do you think? I mean, I'm not reading all of the explanations, but basically, all of the rundowns are all just about the stats.
Yeah.
It's telling you King Henry gives the team power rusher. Stats, style aside, his production earns him the spot. It's all about yards per carry, and he was 4.9. Adrian Peterson's 4.6, and LT was 4.3. So that's what you're basing this on is a half a yard per carry.
So
Like
I thought I did take a quick glance at the list, so I was a little bit prepared here. The running backs was the one that I had the most issues with.
Really?
Priest Holmes, good player, really good player. LaDainian Tomlinson and Adrian Peterson are the two best running backs I've ever seen.
I agree.
So
I told you I would have had Tomlinson over any of these three guys.
Yeah, so I think LT was the more well-rounded player, obviously, but just in terms of pure ball carrying, I don't think there's anybody better than Adrian Peterson in my generation. Post 2000, let's call it. Adrian Peterson was in a league of his own in terms of just purely toting the rock, and I don't know how you could have anybody ahead of him.
They basically punted on the fullback spot. It's Kyle Juszczyk, and they didn't even have a practice squad.
Oh.
They just they said that his 9 Pro Bowl selections are 4 more than Patrick Ricard and 5 more than Lorenzo Neal. Okay.
Well, Lorenzo Neal was a great player.
But that's all I needed was like the amount of Pro Bowls. No analysis
so
needed.
I assume Mike Allstott was like
probably
much
too
90s.
Probably too 90s centric.
Yeah.
Wide receivers.
They didn't like this one either.
Hard to argue with the first two though.
Yeah.
Randy Moss, Calvin Johnson.
Yep.
Julio Jones. Terrell Owens, I have a little bit of a problem with.
That's a lot of 1990s doing some work.
Yeah,
there.
Marvin Harrison, also a little bit 90s heavy. Justin Jefferson, no issue there. Antonio Brown and Andre Johnson, the practice squad guys.
So, I think Antonio Brown's got to be higher on this list. Personally, I would have him over Marvin Harrison. I'd probably have him at least over Marvin Harrison, but Antonio Brown to me, because if you're weighing peak as a big part of this, that
Antonio Brown was
the 2010s run by Antonio Brown is insane.
6 years, I think it was 6 straight.
Yeah, just led the league in
100 catch seasons, right?
Yeah,
with 1,000,
like everything.
And it's not like 100 catches for 1,100 yards.
No.
He was 100 catches for 1,500.
He had one of the most productive runs of anybody in that 4 or 5 year period in Pittsburgh.
So we'll move on to tight ends. Gronk obviously is the number one guy. Travis Kelce and Tony Gonzalez are the other two, and the practice squad is Antonio Gates.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good practice squad.
Yeah, that's a pretty good practice squad. That's a pretty good list. I think those 4 really are.
I am a little bit partial to Gates, but I have no problem with the way that they did this. And I'm going to close out the offense, and then we'll take a little bit of a break. The left tackles, Joe Thomas and Trent Williams.
No arguments.
With Walter Jones, and we use the Jordan Mailata because it's the international player pathway, and that gives you 17 guys in your practice squad.
So they cheated.
They cheated.
Yeah.
So I'd have to go back and look, but Jonathan Ogden, was all his damage done in the 90s? Because Walter Jones
was a lot in the 90s too.
Kind of, looks that way. And Orlando Pace,
right?
Jordan Mailata was better than those two guys.
Jordan Mailata's had a nice run here, but I don't think that there's enough. I feel like there's probably better now. I agree with the top. Joe Thomas and Trent Williams are the 2 best left tackles of the last.
Trent Williams
years.
is maybe the best offensive lineman I've seen.
I would probably have
ever. Period.
Yeah, I'd probably have Tyron Smith ahead of
peak
Mailata.
Peak Tyron Smith. Had trouble staying healthy. Man, like Fred. Fred's all excited.
Yeah, loves that guy.
The guards were Alan Faneca and Steve Hutchinson. Again, no practice squad. And the center is Jason Kelce.
Yeah, that's probably fair. Guard. I mean, obviously, I think Zach Martin's on there for left guard or right guard.
Right guard,
Zach. Position. Yeah.
Zach Martin and Marshall Yanda with Jari Evans.
So the only guy that I would say that maybe is missing from the guards is Quentin Nelson, who has been
Quentin,
freaking awesome for 10 years. Yeah. He's a really good player. But there's a lot of Faneca fans.
The right tackles were Lane Johnson and Willie Anderson. No more.
So
no more practice squad.
There at right tackle, in my opinion, if you're gonna have Mailata as an honorable mention at left tackle, how is Penny Sewell not in the conversation at right tackle? Penny Sewell's been doing it for just as long at this point as Mailata has, and is easily the best right tackle in football at this point. So I would have put Penny Sewell on that list at right tackle, but Lane Johnson's been the best.
So that's the offense. I'm going to, go back to some emails because I want to, unlike Fred, I like to reward the people who take the time out, especially when they suck up to us, which is what George is doing. George in Pennsylvania just wanted to send out an email, say, I love watching the show. Fred and Paul are hilarious. I love watching Catch 22 with Evan and Alex.
Thank you.
Keep up the great work and love the content, guys. I have 2 questions. The first one is he's from Pennsylvania. He will be visiting Gillette Stadium next month for training camp, wondering if players are going to visit fans to maybe meet and greet and sign some merch. That's a guarantee every day of training camp.
Post-practice.
It's after practice. You can get emails from, it's kind of catch as catch can every day, but there's usually one position group that will sign specifically for fans also. So that can change, varies from day to day. But you will be able to get autographs, I would say, any training camp practice day.
So actually, a few weeks ago, I was with my parents and my mom or my dad, I don't know who found it, pulled out a photo of me as a child at Patriots training camp, and when the players were signing. And the one that I remember, because my sister got an autograph from Brady at one of the training camps, and I think she fainted. Like, she was legitimately fainting. But the picture that they showed me happened to be one head coach Mike Vrabel in his playing days, and little me just like with a big smile on his face.
You have a picture of that?
Yeah.
You should print that out.
And
you should show that to him.
And we still have his autograph too, what he signed and everything. I have totally forgot about it. I knew we had the jersey signed, but I didn't know there was picture.
We used to have a day like they would have a practice, specifically for the employees.
Right.
It's kind of like the employee day that they have now, but the practice would sort of be more geared in the stadium as part of the program. And we were sitting in the front row, and I got my boys were really young then, and Matt Light grabbed my son out of my arms and just had him like on the field, just holding on to him, and that was one of those kind of deals. Yeah. Now he's a junior in college.
Yeah.
Because I'm old.
Don't cry. It's okay.
So. Let's see, his second question, this is the other part of the reason why I read this, Ev, it's because it's for us. It's more of a grab bag.
Sure.
Celtics-related question. Hope this is a short answer so you guys don't get drilled for taking the Celtics for too long. How do you guys feel about the Drew Holiday trade? I'm a little sad to see him go, but I am excited for the future with Simons and whoever the Celtics get in draft picks. Thoughts?
I was very excited about the trade. Now, maybe my preconceived notion of what they were going to be able to get was skewed by a lot of the coverage of the Celtics offseason, but I trust people that know more about it than me. And all the conversation about it was, Paul, that they were going to basically have to salary dump Kristaps Porzingis and Drew Holiday. So the fact that they got Anthony Simons back for him, and they actually got an asset and somebody that's averaged 20 points a game and really can create his own shot and is a really good offensive player and got to work on his defense, but someone that can get buckets like that guy is a really good offensive player. The fact that they got that in return for Drew Holiday actually was, last night I saw that right before we went to bed and I was pumped. I was like, yes, like this is much better than we just had to get rid of this guy and we're salary dumping Drew Holiday. So I was extremely excited that they were able to get Simons back in return, and I would like to see him stay. I just think for what they're going to be next year, like just let that guy go get his, like go average 20 a game and go take a bunch of shots.
Yeah.
Like they need the offense, they need the firepower without Tatum. So
I think
it's a good deal.
I thought it was a good return for an aging player. You got 9 years of experience. He's only 26, and Drew was 35, so clearly nearing the end. I thought it was a great return. I don't know what the plan is, but I think it was a good value asset. And what if you're going to include him in part of the next trade, that's going to enhance that package that you're going to be able to get back. So I like the move as much as I like Holiday. We all know what the situation is.
Significantly better player than I thought they would get back.
Yeah, I agree. One of the things we were talking about earlier of regrets, things that we're worried about the offensive line. Might there have been a guard that they could have got? Patrick McCarry is a guy that gets brought up.
Yep.
I do think that he has some versatility to play a number of different spots on the line. Hasn't really been, in my view, sort of a frontline starting guy, but he's always been capable of starting for the Ravens. And I think he's a guy who would have made some sense.
Yeah, sixth man for the Ravens.
Gio brought that in. Thanks, Gio, for setting that.
Yeah, he's got it. The sixth man, that was what he's been. Fill in a little bit at tackle, fill in a little bit at guard when he's needed to. But is there a chance that he's a starting caliber player in another team? Yeah, I mean, that was definitely one of those guys. That was who you were thinking of, I think, when you said that earlier. So.
The show's flying.
Yeah, there you go.
You notice that? Justin in Virginia, I want to make sure, unlike Fred, I don't want to wait till 1:58 to get back to the hotline. So Justin in Virginia is next.
What's going on, fellas? Hey, I was kind of listening to you guys while I was on hold. Speaking of the thing you said where, like, you like, put your son, or Matt Light, like, your son out of his arms. The first time I ever called in, it was you, Andy, Eric, and Fred, and I was 13 years old. I am 28 now, and I'm about to be 29 in September.
Yeah, well, I'm 57, so what are you going to do?
Yeah.
You're still young.
The question I had with
Young
you
at
guys
heart.
is, like, when it comes to Shamar Stewart on the Bengals, like, is it any more complex than just, like, the Bengals are just kind of, like, cheap like they've historically been, and, like, the Cardinals are cheap like that? Like, what's kind of going on there, you know? Because it's like he's
I think it can be as simple as that.
Yeah, they're trying to break precedent, from what I understand, of the guaranteed money, that every first-round pick's contract is fully guaranteed per the CBA, and they're trying to break precedent with that. And
Well, I think it's when they get the guarantee, and then the injuries and all that stuff. Yeah, I think I think Justin's got it. I think the Bengals are just being cheap.
All right, appreciate you guys. Love you guys. Take care.
Yeah,
Thanks, Justin.
The whole draft pick wage scale thing is interesting. Travion Henderson, like you mentioned at the top of the show, is the one pick that's unsigned, and all this stuff is historical precedent. And the Texans gave Jaden Higgins a fully guaranteed contract as a second-round pick. He was the 34th overall pick, and now there's 30 second-round picks that still haven't signed their contracts across the league. So it's not just Travion Henderson.
It's because of that.
And it's because of Jaden Higgins, not his fault, but because the Texans gave him a fully guaranteed contract. So now all the second-round picks want a fully guaranteed contract. And so the Texans, in a lot of ways, kind of screwed the rest of the teams.
How do you feel about that, just, from the outside? Like,
I don't know. I always am. I'm typically pro player with these kinds
I'm almost
of things.
always pro player,
Yeah.
but this one I can understand the team side.
Yeah, I mean, these draft picks are really, especially outside the first round, it's kind of a lottery ticket whether or not you really work out. And so to be stuck on, with 4 years of team control.
Well, and I know
at
it's not a tremendous amount of money,
Yeah.
but, like, how would you feel right now if you were the Patriots with Jalen Polk?
Right.
Like, guarantee. I know, again, it's not going to make or break your cap situation, but I understand if they don't want to. I don't think they're sure things. Even second rounders aren't sure things.
No, and it's a sliding scale. So, like, if everybody that was drafted in the 30s gets a guaranteed contract, like, when does that stop? Like, at what number draft slot does it stop? And now we go to partially, and then it just is that going to
Make the
continue
entire
to
draft. If you get drafted, you're guaranteed a
Right.
guaranteed contract.
Right.
I mean, I don't know.
It's tough.
I do think that the wage scale has been highly successful in eliminating what was really a problem.
Agreed.
In terms of A, the astronomical salaries that the rookies were getting, and B, the amount of holdouts and problems that you had, and lost time that you can never get back. Benjamin Watson, was part of that. Once upon a time. Here, Mark in Connecticut is next up on the PU hotline. Mark.
Hey, Paul. Good to hear you running the show, brother.
Yeah, I'm doing my best.
Evan, you actually took the question right out of my mouth. What I was wondering is, what is the deal with Travion Henderson? Why he's the only one that is not signed? Now, I know first-round picks are guaranteed, but is that really the only holdup now with the second-rounders now? Is that you can get guaranteed money?
Yeah, so it's a combination of guaranteed money and then, as Paul said, like payout, right? Scheduling of when the money you actually are going to get the money. You're going to get the money up front, or is it going to get paid out over the course of the season in like a prorated amount? So like you have to decide those types of things. Those are the negotiation powers you have. But I will say, even though
depending on where you pick, though, Evan, is that like the amount that like is allocated for? Is what I would say in my
So
what I would say is,
the total value of the contract is set, right? That's an assigned based off your draft slot type of thing, but the structure of the contract and of the payment schedule is a negotiated element. Like you can negotiate those types of things. So obviously the player is going to want as much guaranteed money up front,
right?
And the team is going to want to pay it for their security over the life of the contract. And so when exactly that player gets those checks is what gets negotiated this time of year. Now, like I said just now, 30 out of the 32 second round picks still have not signed a contract. So this is not just Travion Henderson. This is a league-wide holdup right now on second-round picks.
Absolutely.
So it's not, in that sense, like it's not Travion Henderson's playing hardball. It's all of them are playing hardball.
Thanks, Mark. Let's see. Dear PP Laser.
Oh.
So evidently that is the name of the show.
I like salt and pepper.
He's a little behind. Heard us talking about cookout versus barbecue.
Sure.
Interesting fact, when he moved to Savannah from New Hampshire, he had a barbecue at his place, and people were really disappointed because it was just hot dogs and burgers. If you say you're having a barbecue in the South, it implies that there's going to be pork, such as ribs and so on. And then they say if you don't have that, it's just a cookout. And I learned that the hard way.
I love that distinction. I think that is a great way of putting it. Now, we don't really do that as much up here, I would say, but there's a difference between like a traditional 4th of July cookout and like we got the smoker out and we got the ribs going and all that kind of stuff. It's two very different types of food. So I'm with the people in the South on this one. I like the distinction, cookout, barbecue.
Austin in Oklahoma has been hearing me in particular talk about just how athletic Gonzalez is and how ridiculously easy he makes catching the ball look. He kind of not seriously, making him the X. He's not really being serious in his defense.
I brought this up before, and people are like, "It's not the same." Obviously, it's not the same. I've seen him do it in practice, just when the DBs are like kind of going through the motions with. They'll have like the defensive back be the receiver for his teammate, and it's not serious. It's not a receiver drill. No one's saying that, but I've seen Gonzo do some fun things with one-handed catches and stuff like that in those types of drills. And he definitely has a natural ability to catch the football. There's no doubt about that. I don't know if he can run routes, but he can definitely do that.
Let's see. John's concerned. John in Georgia. He's concerned about Drake Maye's jump from year one. Have you seen him nearly devoting himself? Have you seen him devoting himself to get ready for year two? Working out more, adding muscle, hanging out with teammates outside of Foxborough. My memory says other quarterbacks in the league have done that, and it gets talked about, but evidence so far doesn't really support that. Should I be worried?
Oh, no. I mean, Drake Maye's been here the entire spring. He was really here. We had heard that he was here even in like going all the way back to February, right after his season ended, and then took a little bit of a break, but then came right back. So I think Drake Maye's doing what Drake Maye's supposed to be doing, and like Sean in Vancouver said, congratulations to him on getting married. It's a very smart time to get married. Sean's right about that, because then like even your anniversary falls in a dead time of the NFL calendar.
You might know.
Yeah, I might know a thing or two about that. So that's smart. Not unlike you though, Paul, because you got married.
I got married in the middle of the playoffs.
Yeah,
Fred's still watching the games.
Yeah.
Patriots were not in said playoffs, however. It was 2002. The Patriots did not make the playoffs.
Oh, okay. All right. We got lucky there.
It's 2002 season. I got married in January of 2003.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, that's not nice. Boston Cream, that's not nice.
Oh, no.
Let's be honest. Is Fred not there today because he's finally getting gastric bypass surgery? What? That's just poor to me.
Dang. Shots fired.
Let's see. Oh, Claire.
Hello.
Claire chimes in for hi to PPE and EZ. And hello, Marine. Hello, Claire. Let me make you groan and ask about the tight ends. What's your super early guess on how many tight ends they go with, including the practice squad?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's an interesting one. We talked a little bit about it on Catch 22 last week about do they carry 3 traditional tight ends on the roster? Do they carry 2 and a fullback? Do they carry 3 and a fullback? Do they need to carry that third tight end if they're going to carry Brock Lampy or carry a fullback? I'm right now at 2 and a fullback because I don't feel as though Bell, Westover, Dupree, G. Scott, I don't know if those guys have earned it yet. I think they're going to have to really like outright earn a roster spot to be carried as the third tight end. And then you have that practice squad flexibility. So my guess is right now you have 2 tight ends on the 53 plus the fullback, and then you have 2 of those guys signed back with the practice squad. And if there's injuries or there's game plans that you want to have 2 tights, then you call guys up and things like that.
So I'm going to let Joe in Vermont have the last word for the emailers because I do want to get to the defense real quick before we wrap it up. He thinks the intro to Joker and the Thief would be an awesome walkout song.
It's a good song.
And he was at the game against the Ravens when Edelman threw the TD pass.
Sure.
So he wants to know who on the team not named Drake Maye would be most expected to throw a touchdown pass this season.
That's a good question. I've seen Kendrick Bourne do it. So maybe Kendrick Bourne. I believe he threw a pass in 2021, if I'm not mistaken. So maybe Kendrick Bourne.
I think you're right about that.
Yeah. Hunter Henry.
Hunter Henry. Now that's an outside the box one.
Throwing some passes.
Sneaky athletic.
Yeah. There you go.
Okay, so defensively on this ESPN PFF quarter century team, DeMarcus Ware and Jared Allen, along with Myles Garrett and Julius Peppers. Okay,
so those are ends. Like, do they have ends?
These are edge. These are edge rushers.
Okay, so like no Von Miller didn't get a.
No, so the practice squad is T.J. Watt and Michael Strahan.
Huh.
I would make the argument absolutely
for Von Miller
that Von Miller belongs here. Now, I think Jared Allen would be the first one that I would look at because I think Peppers, Garrett, and Ware, they're all better players than Von Miller. Better careers.
I wasn't a big, maybe I just didn't see enough of him where he played, but I wasn't a big Jared Allen guy. And I know he's in the Hall of Fame.
I know, and I'm not either. Maybe we both missed the boat on that one.
Yeah, but like Von Miller to me, like 2015 playoff run for Von Miller, he was like basically had like a quarterback like impact on the game with the Broncos.
Yeah, and they have T.J. Watt and Michael Strahan as the practice squad. Again, Von Miller to me better than both.
Yeah.
But
Dwight Freeney, no love.
Dwight Freeney, yeah,
good player.
Defensive tackles: Aaron Donald, Calais Campbell, Chris Jones.
Hard to argue.
I don't think any of us has any argument there. Practice squad is Kevin Williams and Cameron Hayward. Here's where I have an issue.
Big Cam Hayward fan.
Better than Richard Seymour?
That's fair. That's fair.
I don't want to go all, happy homer on you, but Richard Seymour is in the Hall of Fame, no?
Yeah. Yeah. Williams probably better than Williams.
So I had an issue with that one. Nose tackle, Vince Wilfork.
Big Vince.
So I think that he definitely, the only one they have listed, they don't even have a practice squad. It's Casey Hampton. I think he benefits. Like, to me, Kevin Williams is more of that.
Yeah, I'd go Richard Seymour over Kevin
They had
Williams.
Pat Williams and Kevin Williams there for those years as the 2 defensive tackles in Minnesota. This is kind of interesting. This is one of those, it's cheap way out. Versatile defensive lineman, J.J. Watt. And I heard my buddy Andy talking about this yesterday.
It's an edge guy.
I have no problem with that because he belongs on the team somewhere.
Right.
But couldn't you just put him on a position?
Like, did we really need to have Jared Allen? I'm sorry. I don't mean to keep picking on Jared Allen.
Maybe we missed it.
I don't know. Yeah, maybe I got to go to NFL Films and watch it.
So I have some problems with the linebackers, too. They pick 5. Starts off okay. Ray Lewis.
Yeah.
I have no issue there. Bobby Wagner. I'm probably okay with that one, too. I need to do a little more research.
Fine.
Brian Urlacher. Levante David. Luke Kuechly. So Luke Kuechly, I have no issue
Kuechly's better than both those guys, David and
I don't think David is as good as another Buck. Derek Brooks.
Derek Brooks.
Who was listed as a practice squad guy. Now, I'd have to go back and look specifically the years, but I mean, he was a huge part of the 2002 Super Bowl team, so he had to have a lot of success in the...
Yeah, I would think maybe too much of his...
In the aughts.
Late 90s stuff.
Derek Brooks, to me...
Good player. Really good.
He's the second best player on this list behind Ray Lewis.
I know he didn't have the full... Kuechly retired pretty early, but I would say Kuechly's probably up there for me, other than Ray Lewis.
Cornerbacks, Darrelle Revis and Champ Bailey, along with Rondé Barber and Richard Sherman.
So I have an issue with Sherman.
Oh, I'm sorry, and Patrick Peterson.
I'm not a Sherman. Do your Seattle 3-corner on your own time. Give me somebody that actually shadowed guys, and I'm not a big Richard Sherman guy, but fine. I mean, Champ Bailey to me is the best.
Who's our buddy in Virginia? Emory in Virginia. I think this is where you have a beef. Where's Asante Samuel? Like the practice squad is Jalen Ramsey.
Yeah.
Okay, so these are all good players.
Yep.
Okay, Asante Samuel's as good as these guys.
Ty Law's as good as these guys.
So I'm going to say that Ty Law...
Too much 90s.
Too much 90s.
Sure.
Asante Samuel doesn't have that. You don't have that fallback for him.
Yeah, I understand, obviously Revis and Champ Bailey. I've had, with all this, he got a lot of comps with Travis Hunter and stuff. You do a little bit more digging on how good Champ Bailey really was. I mean, Champ Bailey was a hell of a player, so I can't argue with those two. But the other ones I think are debatable.
Yeah. So I would say Samuel deserves to be in that conversation at the very least. Safeties, Ed Reed, who's arguably the greatest safety who's ever played.
Yep.
Troy Polamalu, Brian Dawkins, Earl Thomas.
So here's another one. Brian Dawkins, a little overrated to me. Hall of Famer, good player. I'm not a big Brian Dawkins guy.
It's funny, I don't remember Brian Dawkins spending a couple of years with Denver at the end of his career.
He's a really good player. But all-century team's all-century team. I don't know if I'd have Brian Dawkins on that.
Yeah, and 5 years in the 90s, 96, 7, 8, 4 years in the 90s. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. And I think Cam Chancellor sort of gets some short shift here. Charles Woodson is the practice squad player. So that sort of does it for the defense. Just wrapping it up here. The kicker is Justin Tucker. The punter is Shane Leckler. The return guy is Devin Hester. The cover guy, no surprise, is our buddy Matthew Slater.
Nice.
The long snapper is Morgan Cox.
Joe Cardona snubbed.
Okay. What do you think? Do you already see all this so you know the coaching staff?
No.
Obviously, Belichick is the coach, the head coach. I think that's a no-brainer. Offensive coordinator?
Kyle Shanahan.
You're such a loser. Defensive coordinator is Wade Phillips. Special teams guy, Dave Taub, the longtime Kansas City Chiefs.
I didn't actually see that, but it should be Kyle Shanahan,
It is Kyle
Shanahan.
I'm
glad it's Kyle Shanahan.
Well, you kind of probably knew that, but by the way I was setting it up, too. That one went really fast, and I got to be honest with you, I did not expect it to go fast because I thought that Evan and I would be dragging with not a lot of news to talk about. The weather is beautiful. I didn't really feel like there'd be a lot of people online, taking part. But I want to thank everyone who spent some time with us. And that will not be the last time you hear from us this week. We'll be back on Thursday. I think Deuce will be back.
I believe so.
I don't think Fred will be back. Will we have a Catch-22 extravaganza tomorrow?
Yes, Catch-22 tomorrow, and then PP and the Deuce and Lazar on Thursday.
All right, so we'll make Mike host on Thursday so I can get back to my tomfoolery, which is what I do best. I want to, again, thank everyone for helping out today because it's not easy to do a show when you're not used to hosting, and you guys made it easy. So we'll talk to you on Thursday.
Hey, this is Deuce. Thanks for tuning into the show. If you really want to help us, make sure you like us wherever you get your podcasts, like Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Also, make sure you follow us on the New England Patriots YouTube channel to see this show and everything else that we do here at the Patriots. Thanks a lot.